My colleague Chris Wallace has discovered again the president doesn't distinguish. Apparently furious over Chris's interview this past weekend with House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. Scalise has steadfastly defended the president on this whole Ukrainian situation. The president likes Steve for that. Let's just say he doesn't like Chris for challenging Scalise on that. Like when Scalise dismissed the first week of public impeachment hearings as Adam Schiff's witnesses. Chris pointed out, say what you will of those witnesses, they were career Foreign Service officers who worked in the Trump administration. Or when Scalise argued the president was only concerned about corruption in Ukraine, even though Chris pointed out the president never uttered the word corruption in that July 25th call. A call that Scalise said involved only the two presidents, but as Chris quickly added, yeah, and a dozen people listening in, and a number of them immediately upset. Now, we can debate whether the crime was committed here or any crime was committed here, but Chris challenged Scalise, concluding the witnesses who testified last week didn't see a crime committed here. That was his view of what they said. But that is not what they said. We can't please all. The best we could do as journalists is be fair to all, including you, Mr. President. That's not fake doing that. What is fake is not doing that. What is fake is saying Fox never used to do that. Mr. President, we have always done that. We did, Chris did, I know I did. I recall quite well a chat I had with you back in 2015 when you were running for president. I heard later on that you were none too pleased. You actually called me nasty. The interview, even worse. You were entitled to that opinion, Mr. President. Actually, many agreed with you then. Many agree with you now. Some go so far as to say I'm fat and clueless, Mr. President. Now imagine anyone calling me fat. But journalists, no matter their weight, aren't entitled to praise you. We are obligated to question you and always be fair to you. We will, even if it risks inviting your wrath. Like I said, you are free to rage. All we are free to do is report and let the viewers decide.
This is Fox News' Neil Cavuto sticking up for his Fox colleague Chris Wallace after Trump attacked him on Twitter because apparently he wasn't fawning enough. This weekend, Chris Wallace interviewed Republican lawmaker Steve Scalise, who obviously decided to try his hand at defending Trump's indefensible behavior. And he floated a slew of baseless talking points that were so clearly lies that Chris Wallace had no choice but to push back.
Congressman Scalise, if Gordon Sondland, who met with the president a half dozen times this summer, testifies on Wednesday, yep, the president said to me, we're not releasing the aid until they announce they're going to investigate the Bidens and Burisma, doesn't that blow a hole in the president's defense?
Well, the president's defense is that those things didn't happen. And once again, there were only two people that participated in that phone call. It was Donald Trump and President Zelensky. Both of them were very happy with the phone call. Zelensky said there was no pressure.
Sir,
and the real bottom line is he got the money. Ukraine got the money,
well,
Chris.
First of all, a dozen people listened in on the phone call, and a number of them were immediately upset because what the president said about Burisma.
Well, those were Schiff's witnesses.
Well, wait a minute. No, sir. They're career Foreign Service officers, and these are people who worked in the Trump administration.
Schiff's witnesses. There are other witnesses.
You had a woman yesterday. You had a woman yesterday who was on Vice President Pence's staff. She said it was inappropriate. You had Tim Morrison, who was on the NSC staff, who said that alarm bells immediately went off for him. Alexander Vindman immediately went to see. These are all people, you say they're Schiff's witnesses. They all were working in the Trump administration.
And what else would the most powerful man in the world be doing other than watching Fox News to make sure that his mouthpieces are groveling hard enough? So when Trump saw Chris Wallace actually calling Scalise out on his glaring holes in his defense, he clearly didn't appreciate the lack of absolute loyalty from what he views as his very own state TV network. He took to Twitter writing, "Steve Scalise blew the nasty and obnoxious Chris Wallace, will never be his father Mike, away on Chris's lowest rated, unless I'm on, morning show. This kind of dumb and unfair interview would never have happened in the Fox News past." Now, mind you, while Trump does attack Wallace personally, he doesn't push back on anything substantive because he can't. The fact is that Trump has no legitimate defense here, so he and his mouthpieces rely on attacking the process and people to try and take the focus away from the real issue here, which is that Trump tried to extort a foreign country for his own personal benefit in the next election. But we already know this. We know that Trump committed his crimes and that his favorite lawmakers and opinion hosts are all performing for an audience of one and showing up on cable shows and public hearings jockeying for position to get a spot on Trump's Twitter feed. And sure, these people are clearly trying trying to raise their profiles among Trump's base and raise money and make sure that they don't get primaried by someone more loyal to Trump, but it's actually him that benefits the most. Trump needs those people around him to prop him up and defend him, and chief among those defenders is Fox News. Which is why Trump gets especially irate when his support on the network wavers. Without Fox, which effectively acts as a propaganda arm to the White House, Trump wouldn't be able to keep his base, that 20 to 30% of Americans, buying into his lies. And sure, they stand to gain too. They get access to the White House, exclusive interviews, tweets from Trump about their books. But the simple fact is that if Richard Nixon had Fox News in the 70s, he likely wouldn't have had to resign from office. Because here we are in 2019 with Trump having committed a worse crime than Nixon, and not only is he still in office, but he has an entire network of loyalists defending his every corrupt move. And Trump knows just how invaluable that is. So no, he doesn't want accurate coverage, he doesn't want critical coverage, he wants fawning coverage. He wants absolute loyalty, and when he doesn't get it, whether it's from Chris Wallace or Judge Napolitano or Neil Cavuto, he will attack them, not only to scare them, but to send a message to anyone else who dare stand up to him. Just like he attacked Marie Yovanovitch while she was testifying during his impeachment hearing. His entire strategy is to make sure all of his detractors, even potential detractors, know that not only will he ruin their lives, but he'll make sure his goons on Fox News do the same. It's enough to keep most people in line, and that should scare anyone who values the truth. Neil Cavuto, like Chris Wallace and others who have enough of a conscience and a backbone to call a spade when it comes to Trump, took a risk by pushing back against this notion that all Republicans and all Fox News hosts have to stand by and watch as their party continues to devolve into this lawless cult of personality around Trump. But that risk is a small price to pay for being able to look back when this is all over and say that he chose to be honest instead of a partisan hack.